Okay, I guess we're going to get started. I know there's still several people left to get into the room, but people can join as they're able over their lunch hour. My name is Robin. I'm Executive Director for SAOT, and I want to welcome everybody to our webinar today. This was a super popular topic, and we had about 170 OTs register for the webinar. I'm also aware that there was another AHS webinar taking place today at the same time. So we are going to record today, and we will make the recording available. So if you know of other OTs who weren't able to join or are interested in watching later, we will make that available. So warm welcome to everybody on the webinar. Just ask that you please post your questions during the presentations into the chat box, and I will help to moderate those after the presentation is finished. And I want to welcome today Alanna Ferguson, who is representing the college, and also Leonard Belland, who is the branch manager for Brokerlink, and he is based in Edmonton, and also Jordan Abrams with Brokerlink as well. So with that, I'd like to start just by having Alanna speak briefly about the new policy requirement by ACOT for your personal professional liability insurance. So welcome, Alanna.
Thank you, Robin, for having me today. As Robin indicated, I am the Acting Director of Policy and Practice for ACOT, while Angela Manili, formerly Sekulik, is on secondment. So my key responsibilities with ACOT are to work and support the continuing competence program, as well as to help registrants with their professional practice as it relates to interpreting our standards of practice and codes of ethics and any public protection legislation. And given that we're in renewal, I need to make this shameless plug for all of you to join me. We have 15-minute support series now offered daily, so you can find our link on our webpage under CCP resources, and I give a 15-minute in-service, and that's it. But now going back to the personally held professional liability insurance, starting this renewal year, ACOT requires all registrants to personally hold a minimum of $5 million in professional liability insurance. This is regardless of your roles or responsibilities. So if you hold registration with ACOT, you are required to hold professional liability insurance. And having employer insurance coverage only will no longer be sufficient as it has been in years past. And the change was made because most employer-based insurance policies do not cover OTs for the activities outside of work or for any complaints that come straight to ACOT rather than through to the employer. So this can leave the public and OTs without the benefits of personally held professional liability insurance that it's intended to provide. So our legislative mandate at ACOT is the protection of public, and by requiring all OTs to hold this professional liability insurance, we can ensure that the public has options in cases where litigation becomes a reality. And this is separate from the college's complaint process. So we are asking you to upload your evidence of insurance during renewal this year only, although you are expected to renew your professional liability insurance when it expires every year. We will not ask you to provide us for evidence in your renewal every year though. So if we do complete a review and evaluation of the continuing competence program, and you're one of the 10% that was randomly selected for the review, then you will be required to send an updated copy of your professional liability insurance that is current for that year. And then just quickly to let you know that the acceptable evidence of this insurance policy is that you would upload a copy of the policy that shows your policy number, your name, and the effective and expiry dates. So you won't need to upload the whole policy, just the pieces that have that. And you're going to upload that in your declaration in step 4 of renewal. And then lastly, because this is a question that has come up a lot, is I need to address the leaves of absences, parental leaves, or retirement, because in these situations, there's a whole host of factors that the registrant needs to weigh up should you renew your practice permit or not. And so specific to these situations, I want to reiterate that if you renew your registration with ACOT, you need to hold professional liability insurance, even if you're on leave or not practicing. So your renewal of your permit means that you need to hold that professional liability. And then keep in mind that in Alberta, there is a limit to when civil action can be filed according to that Limitations Act that's in legislation. So the time frame requirements of this act allows time to serve the claim and as well as the filing. So that is 11 years, 3 months. So if you're working with minors, it's 11 years, 3 months past the age of 18. And so that's why we always recommend to registrants that they follow up with their insurance provider to ensure that if they cancel their permit and do not renew their insurance, they can identify what the limits to their insurance policy is prospectively. And that's all I have to say. So thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thanks so much, Alanna. I just wanted to jump in quickly before Leonard does his presentation. We've had several phone calls and emails with regards to our insurance group plan policy year. That runs from March 1st of every year. So rather than obviously asking people to purchase a policy which may only be valid for 30 days or whatever time you decide to renew your registration with ACOT, you can request that your policy starts on March 1st. And in that sense, you would not incur that additional cost. And I did discuss that with Alanna at the college, and that is acceptable. So I just wanted to jump in with that before I forget. So with that, I'd like to introduce Leonard, who's going to walk us through our group plan. Welcome, Leonard.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm working in 2 systems here. Yeah, it's great to thank you for taking your lunch hour to allow me to present Brokerlink's professional liability program. My name's Leonard Belland. I've been involved in professional liability group programs going on 15 years. They've progressed a lot in those 15 years, from paper applications to now where we can process most of them in real time online. I'll give you guys a little bit of background on Brokerlink. So Brokerlink is one of the largest brokerages in Canada. We're 100% Canadian owned and operated with 3,000 employees and over 200 offices across Canada. A bit of a disclaimer. So Brokerlink is an insurance brokerage that offers insurance solutions from different providers. One of these providers is Intact Insurance. Intact Insurance and Brokerlink are both owned by Intact Financial Corporation. Intact Financial Corp, for a bit of background, also owns Bel Air Direct, Johnson Specialty, and Novex Insurance. Brokerlink acquired HDF Insurance about 2 years ago, and HDF was the provider of professional liability insurance for the SAOT members. HDF had years of experience with professional liability, and now we've moved that platform over to Brokerlink. I've discussed the platform, and I'll review that in further slides. And if you have questions on how to navigate it, please enter them in the chat and I can answer those. But as mentioned, the platform is live 24/7, and certificates are delivered in real time. So there's no waits at all. little bit of background on professional liability. So professional liability protects organizations and individuals from the delivery of your professional services. A bit of description there. If you operate a clinic, you're inpatient, outpatient. Once you start delivering advice, doing assessments or treatments, that's where the professional liability would impact those exposures. Again, protects you against negligence, failure to deliver services, or if you do give advice and the client feels that it's not the correct advice and moves forward with a claim, or there's injuries or damages. Takes on different names. In the OT's case, it's probably related to medical malpractice, media organizations, media liability, or errors and omissions insurance. A little bit about the program. So it is competitively priced. It is $73 a year for option 1 and $122 a year for option 2. Now, these options are professional liability only. And the only difference between option 1 and option 2 is the limit of liability at $6 million versus $10 million. For individuals who are working for AHS, for example, option 1 is more than enough to cover those exposures. A lot of the professional liability claims that are reported to AHS will be picked up directly by AHS. What Alanna was referencing and what is the important piece of this insurance for those that are not self-employed or on contract are the penal legal expense and the disciplinary legal cost coverage. Our plan also includes $50,000 for security and privacy liability, which other folks call cyber insurance. So again, my recommendation to those that are employees would be option 1. I think it's overselling if you go to option 2. So I would definitely save the premium dollars there. Again, just to reiterate, and this is where we see claims, more so in other associations, we see a prevalence of these types of claims, but they're disciplinary legal expense claims. So a patient client makes an accusation against you directly to the college. The college has a duty to investigate, and there is obligations to defend yourself, and you'd be covered up to $300,000 for those defense costs. Again, that is where we're seeing those complaints, and those complaints can come in a variety of forms, sometimes directly from clients, but they can also come from coworkers as well if the coworker feels that one of their colleagues is not acting appropriately. The second one, that's a priority penal legal expense. If there is a regulatory fine and you have to defend yourself against that fine, this will provide up to $300,000 in coverage for those defense costs as well. Keeping in mind, if there is a fine levied, insurance will not pay for the fine that is levied. It will pay for the defense against a fine being levied. Security and privacy liability. So in a work from home environment, if you're contracted self-employed, you're controlling customer information, you're distributing client or customer information, this provides coverage for expenses related to a breach of data. And I can clarify that a little bit. So it's, if there's a financial loss and there's negligence involved and the client suffers a financial loss, liability will pick that up. This is if there's a breach, it provides expenses for notification, regulatory fines associated with that data breach. Brokerlink also, or Intact Financial, also offers Legal Guard, which is a free service for 24/7 legal advice. In the event you have simple questions, you have a business and you have questions regarding leases, any sort of legal question that you may have associated with your business or practice. So as Alanna discussed, so whether you're on leave, you're moving into retirement, a couple key features of professional liability, it's a claims-made reporting form. There are two types of policy forms in Canada. One is claims-made and one's occurrence-based. A claims-made form must be enforced at the time the accusation is presented or a claim is presented. So if you go on leave and you do not renew your insurance and something happened prior to that leave that only was disclosed after the policy lapsed, there would be no coverage for that claim. So it is important to, if you are going on leave, to renew your insurance just to ensure that that claim gets covered. But that being said, this policy will also pick up all prior actions. So there is no retroactive date, meaning as long as you were aware that there were, or you weren't aware of any instances or situations that could give rise to a claim when you complete your application. It could have happened 5 years ago, 2 years ago. This policy will pick up all those prior exposures. Worldwide coverage. So if you do work out of province, I think that's a common situation, or you have a client that's winters in the United States and you're still providing treatments, this will pick up that coverage, providing that the claim is presented in Canada. So there is no obligation. If you are a member of 2 colleges, this policy will pick up the exposures for Alberta as well as other provinces. So I'll move to commercial general liability. And for those that are employees of Alberta Health Services, larger companies, this is probably not a requirement. In fact, you would pick up all your exposures by just purchasing professional liability. What commercial liability does and what it's important for is exposures outside of the professional liability piece. So as an example, you are going to an outpatient's home and you damage their property by accident. Somebody comes to your clinic, they trip and fall on ice. Those would be professional liability exposures. Once you start treatment, give advice, general liability has a professional liability exclusion. So that's the purpose of professional liability. And that's where that policy would come into play. So for those of you, and that's where the disciplinary defense costs are covered as well. So that's the priority for those that are employees. If you are on contract, a subcontractor, or own your own clinic, this is where you would look at purchasing commercial general liability to pick up all those other exposures that aren't part of the professional realm. So we do offer 2 packages online for commercial general liability as well. 2 million in coverage or 5 million in coverage. The exposures are a lot less, but the uptake and the requirement for this product's a lot less. So that's where that premium differential comes in. The uptake for professional liability is 100%, so we can manage the premium on that side a little more effectively. A couple other additions that we have. If you do have a corporation, you operate under a numbered company, you're a sole proprietor, but also sign contracts under a different entity name, you can add coverage, professional liability and commercial general liability policy or coverage for those entities as well. And then the policy would pick up claims or suits associated with both yourself and the entity. We offer a few discounts. So for first-year grads or second-year grads, the discounts are listed there. For those going on maternity or parental leave, we do offer a 50% discount to encourage you to renew that policy. So an annual policy on option 1 would be $36 per year. So There is another program available, and it's through SAOT. So I did just a quick comparison, and I don't have a full line of sight to the SAOT policy. SAOT has enhanced disciplinary and penal legal coverage. We include the cyber or security and privacy liability. And a little point of fact, both policies are actually underwritten by Intact Financial Corporation. This is our portal website, and it'll be distributed. I think Robin has a pamphlet with this link on it. There will be a renewal going out to existing members this week. The site has changed in the last few years, and I just want to point out where we've had a couple issues in the past, and I think one of them has been solved this year. There was internal issues with AHS and accessing the system from a Alberta Health Services browser last year. And as you move through this year, there isn't a renewal button specifically. So if you hit apply online, it'll ask you if you're currently insured. If you say yes, it will automatically trigger the renewal option. For new members of SAOT that are looking to purchase the program, you would still click apply online. You would answer no, and then it'll trigger, do you want to start coverage today, or would you like to purchase starting March 1st? And I believe to meet ACOT's requirement, you can select the March 1st option and save yourself a few premium dollars. Knowing that coverage will not be in effect until March 1. So if the remote chance of a claim being presented from now until March 1 happened, there would be no coverage for that loss. And as the application can be done in about 4 to 5 minutes, and there's, I think, 5 questions that qualify. If it does stop you from moving forward, please reach out to me or our office and we can navigate it through. The only reason it will stop is if you've had prior claims or if you know of an allegation that has been presented. Perfect. Just a couple other considerations for purchasing the program. You must be a full active member of SAOT. The mailing address must resolve with Canada Post. If there is a rural address that our system will not resolve, please contact our office, and we do have a workaround for that. There should not be too many of those, but they do come to light once in a while. The program is not meant to cover commercial general liability for large or multidisciplinary clinics. It's meant for operations of 5 or less employees, sole proprietors, employees, or subcontractors. If you are part of a multidisciplinary clinic, you would still purchase your own personal liability, and the clinic should look at purchasing professional or commercial general liability for themselves. Perfect. We do have other insurance benefits for being a member of SAOT, and I will pass it on, and then we can do questions at the end if anybody has any. I'll pass it on to my colleague, Jordan.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having us. My name is Jordan Abrams. I am also with Brokerlink, managing our personal lines home and auto group insurance program. So as Len mentioned there, as members of the organization, or as the members of the Society of Alberta Occupational Therapists, you guys also receive perks on your home and auto insurance. So it's just an additional perk for you guys. It's great because you can have everything all in one place, but this would be a separate insurance program. So this is for your personal insurance, and it's actually written with 2 of the largest insurers in Canada, so Intact as well as Economical Insurance. So not only can you shop with Intact Insurance, but we can also check those rates with Echo as well, because you guys get discounts with both. Eligibility for the home and auto portion of the program is any active member of the any active member as well as retired member, including your spouses and children. So if they're under 21 or if they're in post-secondary under 25, they would also qualify for those discounts as well. So some perks of having your insurance with Brokerlink, your personal insurance with Brokerlink. So we have a dedicated team in-house to help service those policies. So you get that VIP white glove treatment, as well as our markets also do have a dedicated group underwriters. So they're just more educated in the program, of course, with the best rates, putting their best foot forward, claim service, and just overall service level commitments. You guys are getting the best of the best. The group discounts, of course, if you can save money on your insurance, why not? The discounts range anywhere from 10 to 20%, depending on whether it's home, auto, and which market, as well as there are additional savings that can be tacked onto there, such as combining your home and auto, and different programs within Intact and Economical. As well as you save money on the payment plan. So typically most markets will charge a finance fee between 3 and 4% if you want to go on a monthly payment plan. You guys have 0% on those payment plans, so you save the service fees. And of course, if you guys are taking the commercial side of things, the professional or commercial liability, you have your insurance all in one place. So we can have you on the phone with Len and he can do a quick transfer to your personal broker to take care of your personal stuff. And I just wanted to highlight, we do have a contest going on. Well, not us, but Economical hosts this contest every year. I found out recently that one of you guys have already won before, but Brokerlink did have a couple winners just recently as well. So super exciting. They draw 12 cash prizes of $5,000. The next one coming up is in April, so you guys are still eligible to enter in for that one. All you need to do is give us a call and get a quote on your home and auto. If you already are insured with us, you just need to give us a call and let your broker know that you are insured with us and just want to enter in the contest. And yeah, fingers crossed. Good luck, guys.
Okay, thanks so much, Leonard and Jordan. We do actually have a few questions, and the first one is from Cynthia. She's asking about if your clients are other healthcare professionals, what would be an example of a claim that could be made against you in that instance?
So if your clients are other healthcare professionals, so regardless of their occupation, I don't see a distinction whether they are other healthcare professionals or an insurance broker. If you're providing the treatment, that's where professional liability would come in. So what they may perceive as negligent advice, damages associated with that advice, further injury, I really don't see a distinction based on who the patient is or their occupation, to be honest.
So if the person, though, Leonard, I think what she's referring to is not actually working with clients, she's working alongside other healthcare professionals. You did mention that in some instances there have been claims or complaints coming from other healthcare professionals, and maybe Alanna might be aware of an example as well.
Yeah, so for sure. So we do see complaints. So regardless of the nature of the complaint or who it comes from, the policy will defend that. So if you are working with somebody and they feel something that an individual has done was inappropriate, or I guess they didn't do their job, that policy would respond to that complaint and that allegation and defend those allegations. The one point I need to make clear, and all these policies do have it, is there is, the SAOT has it as well, there is an abuse exclusion for claims that are sexual, mental, or physical in nature. The policy will not respond to damages associated with abuse claims. The policy will reimburse legal fees associated with abuse claims in the event that the claims were unfounded and the individual wasn't prosecuted.
And I will just add on to that, from the regulatory perspective, when you look at the Health Professions Act, in Schedule 15, which is the Health Professions Act, outlining the profession of occupational therapy, the definition of practice in OT is under Section 3. So your client, depending on your situation, whether you're a researcher, administrator, educator, or direct clinician, will change the definition, but you're still engaging in the practice of OT, and under the regulatory perspective, you're still using our protected title. So that's where the definition of clients may change within your role and responsibilities. But so from a regulatory perspective, you can be very open to that suggestion that practice is defined in many different contexts and settings, but your client can be also defined differently as well. So refer back to Schedule 15 under the Health Professions Act, Section 3.
Thanks so much, both. Next question is coming from Nicole, and I think actually you and I talked about this earlier this week, Leonard. For a clinician, an OT who's working in home care with AHS, would it be advisable to add on the commercial general liability in case something is damaged by you on the property when you are in that home?
So my recommendation for peace of mind would be to purchase the commercial general liability. The Alberta Health Services policy, if that was the employer, for example, should pick up that exposure because you are essentially working for them at doing home visits, etc. But for peace of mind, in the event AHS wasn't named and you were named directly, I would recommend purchasing that.
Great, thank you. And another question from Taylor. Any additional considerations for coverage that you would recommend for OTs who might be working in volunteer roles?
No additions. So, and Alanna can probably speak to this. I don't think there's a differentiation between volunteer or paid. You would still have that professional liability exposure. Now, in volunteer roles, if you're going to community halls, seniors' homes, etc., you are then picking up a commercial general liability exposure as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add in there, which is relevant for Taylor. She's now on our board of directors. And Leonard did cover that. We do carry the errors and omissions insurance through Brokerlink, which includes coverage for our board of directors in that sense. Next question, can you combine the home and auto as well as the professional liability insurance and get a multi-discount on top of the group discount?
Unfortunately, there's no multi-policy discounting between professional liability and the home and auto. The home and auto do trigger discounts together, so you do get multi-policy discounts between the home and auto. There is no trigger for multi-policy on the professional liability.
Okay, great. And question from Dawn. Do you provide a pro bono program, for example, legal advice for minor questions, typically related to disclosure of information such as test results, raw data, the client will not sign consent form, etc. She mentions in the past, ACOT has deferred such questions to my legal counsel, which in turn, I've used the pro bono program with success. Is that 24-hour?
Yeah, so they will answer basic questions with respect to those. I can't speak to exactly what they will answer, but it's broad in scope, and they will definitely answer. I think the premise there, it's not an Intact owned law firm. It is independent that Intact contracts to provide this service. And I think the premise there is if they answer the questions and there was something you needed to move forward with, that they would hope that you would use them, but there's absolutely no pressure to do that, and they will answer those questions.
Okay, and just a second part, Dawn's got questions around cyber extortion coverage, whether or not that's available in one of the existing plans.
So extortion is not covered under the privacy breach liability. It is an exclusion, so they won't pay a ransom, etc. If there is a data breach, like I said, that $50,000 will cover costs or regulatory fines or promotional costs associated with the remedy of that breach. If you do require extortion coverage, we would have to go outside of the program.
Okay,
And sorry, I don't have a cost on the top of my head here. So
thanks. Question from Jenny. If you have the 5 million in personal liability insurance and our group plan actually provides a minimum of 6, are you also required to have a minimum of 5 million of commercial general liability if you're a sole proprietor or a contractor as well?
Alanna can probably speak to this. I think the ACOT requirement's only for professional liability. And then we do offer the 2 and 5 for commercial general. Again, the liability exposure on commercial general is a lot less than the professional side. So 2 million for the most part is sufficient, unless you have contract requirements requiring 5 million.
Okay, and next, just to confirm, if you're running a small private practice, you would get the professional liability insurance, the commercial general liability insurance, and you would also get combined corporate coverage. Is there a total price for all of that?
Yeah, so I believe the addition, and I can clarify after, is only $45 to add the corporation coverage. And then the base premiums don't change for the corporation. So the $6 million option is $73. And then the commercial general option is just over $100. So you're just adding $45 to those totals for the corporation.
Okay, great. And I will answer this next one, which is around how an active SAOT member would be defined. We were going to change the wording on that slide, Leonard. I knew this was going to come up.
Oh, sorry.
So an SAOT member who is able to purchase through our group plan must be a paid SAOT member. We do have an associate membership category, which is at no cost, but you would not qualify to be able to purchase under our group plan insurance. So you may be working part-time, full-time, you may be non-practicing, etc. Those are all paid categories of membership, in which case you would qualify to purchase under our group plan. Question from Mary Lou, just to confirm, if you work for AHS, then the recommendation is option 1 for professional liability. There would be no need for the commercial.
Correct. Yeah. The only reason you would get that is if you're in home care or going to outpatients at their place of business, that sort of thing. You may want that for peace of mind. If you're in a hospital or an AHS owned facility, there's really no requirement at all.
Okay, and I'll grab the next one. It's a question around retirement. If you do retire, would you still need to purchase full-time SAOT membership to continue with the insurance? The answer is yes. However, you would apply for SAOT membership as non-practicing, which is at a drastically reduced membership fee. And then you can go ahead and continue with the professional liability insurance through our group plan. Okay, another one. We got lots of questions. There's more and more and more. Another question from Dawn. She's saying that CAOT offers a clinic business package that includes property and crime along with CML. Is there a comparable package with Brokerlink?
Yeah, so I am aware of CAOTs. So we don't have that product as of yet. CAOT built that out nationally with Novex Insurance, again, which is Intact owned, and we have comparable products with other associations. I'm in the process of trying to build out something that's simpler for SAOT, but it's not in the works yet. I hope to have it in the next 30 days.
Okay, and there's a question about the cost of the CAOT liability insurance. I don't have that.
It's within, I have that. It's within $1 or $2.
Okay.
With our program, we make sure we price comparably.
Okay, and somebody asking again for clarification on volunteering in an OT role. I think what was said is that there's no difference between being in an OT role as a volunteer or in a paid capacity. Next question, if your employer, in this case, a school district, provides you with commercial general liability and professional liability, do we require the additional insurance? And I'm going to throw this one to Alanna because this is with regards to the new ACOT requirement.
Yeah, and I think it goes along the same lines as, you know, AHS has historically provided professional liability insurance for registrants, but that is not acceptable going forward. And it really truly is because of, if a complaint comes to ACOT outside of it going straight through to the school board, your professional liability insurance that you're going to hold personally will help to cover you, protect the public as well as yourself. So it is in your best interest to hold it yourself, and it is a requirement.
Thanks, Alanna. Leonard, how long would it be recommended to have insurance after you retire?
I mean, I would for sure do the year after you retire, and then it allows for most of those, any instances that could have happened to be reported. We do have a mechanism to purchase up to 7 years. I'm not sure that's necessary, but 1 year for sure.
Okay.
I would like to just speak to that. Just keep in mind that the Limitations Act does allow for 11 years, 3 months. So I'm not making any recommendations, but do consider that and see how that plays into your practice and your practice setting, because that might be a consideration, particularly if you're in private practice. And in addition to that, consider if your population is minors, and that's 18 years, then you start the 11 years, 3 months on top of their 18th birthday of that specific client.
Okay, and just for clarification, if you're solely working as a contractor and not as an employee, you would still require the $5 million in professional liability insurance. I think the answer is yes. Any OT who is wanting to register in the province of Alberta will require that, regardless of what your work circumstance would be. Okay, question from Catherine. During redeployment for COVID, sometimes OTs are retrained to work in a different role temporarily. Are we covered when working in a different role? Good question.
So the wording does state working as an occupational therapist. So if and I don't know what that role would be, but if you're working outside the scope of an OT, there would not be any coverage.
And that will be something that you probably want to clarify with your employer as well, because if you are redeployed, there is still, you use your title, your protected title, and your registration with ACOT in your redeployment. So I've had an example recently where there is a redeployment and they are considered still within their role because it is an operational decision to change what your roles and responsibilities are, but you're still acting as an OT. But then again, clarify with your employer, because if you're not using your OT lens or your protected title, then that's where things change for you. So from a regulatory perspective, protected title and your roles, responsibilities will include you're using our standards of practice and codes of ethics to do your engagement of OT practice.
Okay, thank you. Another question about whether or not this will be available as a recording. Answer is yes. And question from Christina, what about those working in management? Are there any differences in those needs for carrying insurance? Alanna?
You know, I mean, I could default to Leonard as well, but as far as ACOT's concerned, is that if you are engaging in the practice of OT as defined by Schedule 15, Section 3, then you would need the professional liability insurance held to $5 million per occurrence.
Yeah, and the exposure is probably less if you're not patient facing, but there's still the ability to purchase that, and the requirement's still there per Alanna's.
Okay, and Leonard, just another nudge from Dawn that she'd really like to see you get on that cyber extortion coverage.
Okay.
I think you and I have talked about that. And any other additional questions before we wrap up today? Yes, we've got another one. Can you please repeat the cost of professional liability option 1 and option 2? It's $73 for option 1. And then
I'm just pulling it up
option 2,
here. Yeah.
okay, is $122, I believe.
Yeah, 73 and 122. Yeah.
Great. And just while we're hanging on for one more minute regarding more questions, there will be a recording available. We will be posting it up on our website as well as sending it out through our e-bulletin, and we'll make it available to you whether or not you are a current member. And on that note, we certainly are hopeful that you will strongly consider SAOT membership and getting your group professional liability insurance through Brokerlink. The SAOT membership for a full-time OT is $175 a year. That question just came up. And if you go onto our website at saot.ca, you'll see all of the categories of membership and what the costs are. So the most you would pay is $175 per year. And that's if you're a full-time employed OT. Any other questions before we wrap up? Do part-time members qualify for insurance? Absolutely, yes. So when you purchase your SAOT membership, you would simply select part-time, and your membership fee is a little bit less. And then you are able to go over to the Brokerlink site and purchase your group plan insurance. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. Thank you, Alanna, for being able to join, because there's always questions that are best answered by the college. So really appreciate that. And Leonard, do you mind just posting your contact information in the chat? If people are wanting to get in touch with you directly, that would be super helpful. Sure. And we will make the recording available. It'll probably take us a day or so. And other than that, everybody please stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great rest of your day.